That is beyond insane. It's honestly one of the goofiest claims I've ever seen someone make. What's up guys, Sean Nalawani, RealScienceAthletics.com, and today I'm going to be reviewing a video by Tim Ferriss outlining his 2 simple but powerful tips that he claims will allow you to lose between 10 to 20 pounds of pure body fat every single month. Not just body weight, he actually makes sure to clarify that this is 10 to 20 pounds of fat loss per month. So obviously you don't want to miss out on this one. Before I jump into it, if you enjoy these no BS fitness videos and you want to stay up to date on all of my future uploads, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell icon to enable notifications. And don't forget to sign up for your free custom fitness program after this video is done over at seannal.com/custom. Just fill out the form on that page and I'll personally send you a free training, nutrition, and supplement plan tailored to your individual needs so that you can get the very best results possible based on your goals and experience level. You can click up here for that or use the link in the description box below. So a lot of you probably know who Tim Ferriss is. He's a well-known sort of business/personal development expert. He's quite well known, and he also gives out fitness advice and sells books that teach people or attempt to teach people how to build muscle and lose fat. He's the author of a program called The 4-Hour Body, which is based on the claim, and this is not a joke, I'll try to say this with a straight face, based on the claim, wait for it, that he gained 34 pounds of muscle in 28 days. Yes, 34 pounds of muscle in 28 days, or 1.2 pounds of muscle per day. No, this is not some parody of some crazy, insane 90s muscle magazine supplement ad. He actually seriously claims this and sells a program using that claim as advertising material. Even though in reality, the absolute most that a natural trainee could probably expect to gain in a month of perfect training and nutrition would be around 1 to 2 pounds of overall relatively lean body weight, 3 pounds at the most. And that's not pure muscle mass. That also takes into account the extra water weight and the body fat gain as well. And anything beyond about 3 pounds per month is just going to be pure body fat essentially. Not only that, but he also claims to have done this by training twice a week for 30 minutes per session. So this whole transformation was done through a total of 4 hours of training, and he also claims to have lost 4.5% body fat at the same time.
Ridiculous. That's really dumb.
Now, keep in mind, guys, that 34 pounds of muscle is roughly around the lifetime amount that a natural lifter with around average genetics could expect to gain, and it would probably take about 3 years, give or take, in order to build the bulk of that amount. Even with the most advanced steroid cycle known to man, taken in the highest possible dose right to the brink of killing yourself, but not quite killing yourself, you still would not even come close to gaining 34 pounds of pure muscle mass in 28 days. That is beyond insane. It's honestly one of the goofiest claims I've ever seen someone make. Even someone as out to lunch as Vince Del Monte,
what's up champ, I'm Vince Del Monte,
only dared to claim 41 pounds of muscle in 6 months. And it's a very good example of why you need to remain skeptical no matter who you're listening to, and be wary of something called the halo effect, which is a cognitive bias where having a positive impression of someone in one area then causes you to assume that the things that they say in other areas are also true. So maybe you follow Tim Ferriss for business advice and you find that advice helpful, and you know he has a large following and he seems credible, he's an author, which actually doesn't really mean much in and of itself, but because of those things, you then assume that his fitness advice must automatically be accurate, which, as I just explained, and I'm about to explain further, is definitely not the case. So let's go over Tim Ferriss's 2 weight loss tips that aren't actually weight loss tips.
There are 2 changes or things that I recommend focusing on. The first is breakfast. If you nail breakfast, even if you don't change any of your other meals, any other behaviors, that is often enough to lose 10 to 20 pounds per month of fat.
Okay, unless you're literally injecting human growth hormone and clenbuterol and whatever other drugs people use for fat loss directly into your protein pancakes every morning, you are absolutely not going to lose 10 pounds of body fat per month just by altering what you eat for breakfast, let alone 20 pounds, which would be flat out physiologically impossible unless Tim's breakfast tip is to not eat breakfast and then not eat any other meals for the rest of the day or the week or the entire month. 1 pound of stored fat contains about 3,500 calories, and so to lose 10 to 20 pounds per month, you'd need to create a net monthly deficit of 35,000 to 70,000 calories, which would equate to around a 1,200 to 2,400 calorie deficit per day. If someone was morbidly obese and they used a very aggressive calorie deficit, then 10 pounds of fat would technically be possible, though it would still be extremely hard to achieve. And it most definitely wouldn't occur just by changing what they eat for breakfast.
And I've seen this thousands of times now.
Okay, anyone can just say they've seen something thousands of times, but that doesn't mean that it's true. Tim Ferriss has also apparently seen himself gain 34 pounds of muscle in 28 days, so I don't know how much faith I'd be putting in his anecdotal reports. You know, maybe he knows of someone who lost 10 pounds of body weight per month. Okay, that would be possible in some cases, but it wasn't 10 pounds of body fat, and there was probably a lot more going on than just modifying their breakfast.
The dream breakfast, I would say, is going to check two boxes. Number one, you're going to have breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up. So you can think of it as 30 within 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up.
So there's no reason why you specifically need to eat breakfast within 30 minutes of waking up. I'm not really sure why he gives that recommendation. He doesn't give any specific reason, but do keep in mind that there's nothing inherently special about breakfast from a fat burning or muscle building perspective. It doesn't kickstart your metabolism for the day like a lot of experts claim, and there are many people out there who are actually able to achieve better fat loss results by doing the opposite and skipping breakfast and then pushing their first meal until later on in the day, for example, with intermittent fasting. Fat loss is ultimately a matter of maintaining a net calorie deficit for the day as a whole, and the specific way that you space your meals out is really just a matter of personal preference in terms of what helps you control your appetite most effectively and just what you enjoy the most in general. If total calories are equated, then there is no bottom line difference between eating breakfast versus not eating breakfast, and it's not true that eating breakfast causes everybody to automatically consume fewer calories later on in the day. Again, for many people out there, it's the complete opposite. And let me know in the comments what approach you personally utilize and that helps you stick to your nutrition plan as closely as possible. Do you eat a regular breakfast meal soon after waking up, or do you prefer to push your first meal until a bit later on? And if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to hit that like button below and let me know, and I'll be sure to do more critique videos in this same style.
And the meal that I would suggest is something like 2 or 3 eggs, then you have lentils or black beans, and then some type of green vegetable like spinach.
Sure, there's nothing wrong with that type of meal if you prefer it, but there's also nothing special about eating beans, eggs, and vegetables for breakfast, and it's not some kind of fat loss secret that's going to magically cause you to drop 10 to 20 pounds of body fat per month.
And you get two things. You get protein, which has a high thermic effect of food and will inhibit your appetite somewhat for the rest of the day. So you might consume, say, anywhere from 20 to 30% fewer calories than otherwise.
So this here is an example of making a statement that's technically true, but then completely overblowing the actual real world benefit. Yes, protein does have the highest thermic effect of the 3 major macronutrients, and thermic effect is essentially the number of calories that are lost as heat energy during the digestion process. You'll hear different estimates, but protein is around 20 to 30% TEF, carbohydrates are about 5 to 10%, and fats are the lowest at anywhere from 1 to 3%. So if you eat 30 grams of protein, as he recommends, that's equal to 120 calories, meaning that you're going to burn a whopping 25 to 35 calories through TEF from the protein in that meal, which is basically nothing. It's definitely important to consume sufficient protein for the day as a whole, both for fat burning and muscle building purposes. Okay, it'll help to control your appetite and assist with muscle recovery and growth. About 0.8 grams per pound of body weight or higher is a good figure to aim for. 0.7 grams is probably enough if you're very overweight, but there's nothing magical whatsoever about eating 30 grams of protein in one isolated meal.
You're also consuming a lot of fiber, which is going to leave you feeling full, satiated for many hours afterwards. This is a really, really key component.
So yeah, that I agree with. To lose fat successfully, you should be basing the bulk of your diet around minimally processed, higher fiber whole foods because they contain less calories relative to their volume and will keep you feeling full for longer, which then increases the chances that you'll be able to maintain your calorie deficit for the day. But again, his tip here is based around breakfast specifically, and eating one high fiber meal in isolation is not going to have some sort of massive spillover effect like he's claiming here.
Second piece is if you drink coffee, tea, anything like that, instead of using milk, and trust me, I don't care if it's almond milk or some other type of fancy milk that you think isn't real milk, no. Almost all of those are going to spike insulin and glucose levels.
If you're literally going to say that putting a small amount of milk into your coffee, that's going to then cause some massive surge in insulin that will prevent you from losing fat, then you should basically be terrified of eating pretty much anything, because any normal carbohydrate containing meal is going to produce an insulin response many times greater than just a few splashes of milk in your coffee. Not to mention that carbs aren't even the only thing that spike insulin. Protein actually causes insulin to be released as well. This whole obsession with insulin is a complete misallocation of most people's effort. It technically is a storage hormone, but your net gains or losses in body fat for the day as a whole are still going to be determined by how many calories there are to be stored in the first place. As long as you're in an overall calorie deficit, then insulin isn't even something you need to be thinking about if you're otherwise healthy. And there's even data now showing that as long as total calories are equated, there is no bottom line difference in fat loss between low sugar versus high sugar diets. Yes, it's true that you don't want to be drinking a large percentage of your calories or eating too many high sugar items because they're not satiating, and then you'll be more likely to overeat for the day as a whole. But for God's sake, man, putting a bit of milk in your coffee is the last thing you need to be worrying about here. This is looking at fat loss from such a narrow lens rather than looking at the overall picture, which is by far the most important thing. Using a bunch of high sugar coffee creamer, sure, yeah, you definitely want to be careful with things like that because they're very calorie dense and they can add up if you aren't careful. But adding a bit of regular milk, that's like 20 calories for 3 tablespoons. It's nothing to be concerned about unless you're using tons of it and you aren't tracking it at all. And almond milk, which he also advises against for some bizarre reason, that has about 10 calories for 3 tablespoons, assuming that it's unsweetened. And it has 1 to 2 grams of carbs. So this whole insulin theory he puts forward here makes zero sense in this case.
And with that change alone, even if you don't handle the breakfast piece, I've seen people lose, yet again, 10, 15 pounds in a given month.
Unless someone was drinking like 8 coffees a day and pouring half a bottle of sugary coffee creamer into every single one of them, then no, Tim Ferriss has not seen people lose 15 pounds of body fat per month simply by switching from putting regular milk in their coffee to using full fat cream without any other changes.
And overarching that, remember, fat loss, 99% diet. You can't outwork your mouth.
I don't know if I'd say that fat loss is 99% diet, but yeah, I would agree that nailing your eating habits down is by far the most important part of the process. That is true. However, these 2 weight loss tips that he gives are basically just fluff. They're not necessarily going to hurt you. If you want to experiment with eating eggs, beans, and vegetables for breakfast, that's fine. Maybe it's a meal that you enjoy at that time of day, and it does keep you feeling fuller for longer. If you want to put full-fat cream into your coffee instead of milk, that's fine as long as you're being mindful of the calorie content. But there is nothing special about this advice whatsoever, and it absolutely is not going to cause you to lose 10 to 20 pounds of body fat per month, just like Tim Ferriss did not gain 34 pounds of muscle in 28 days. For most people, unless they're morbidly obese, usually around 1 to 2 pounds of overall body weight loss per week. That is going to be a realistic rate to go by. Most of it will be fat, but you'll also lose some water weight and glycogen along with it. And usually if you try to go much faster than that, then it means that your calorie deficit is excessively large to the point that you're probably not going to be able to stick to it long term. Keep in mind, once again, that fat loss is about the big picture. It's about creating a calorie deficit for the day and for the week as a whole and setting up your diet in a way so that you can maintain that deficit as consistently as possible. It's not about micromanaging these tiny little details. That's only going to overcomplicate things for you without delivering any additional real-world benefit. Maybe Tim Ferriss gives good business and personal development advice, but based on what I've seen from him, he is completely missing the mark with his fat loss and muscle building advice. And again, halo effect, guys, just because someone has knowledge in one area and speaks slowly and confidently to make it sound like they really know what they are talking about and that this is extremely important information that you need to listen to, that doesn't mean that they actually know what they're talking about. So thanks for watching. If you found this advice helpful and you want to support the channel while maximizing the effectiveness of your fitness program at the same time, then make sure to check out my sports nutrition company, RealScience Athletics, which, unlike most of the poorly formulated junk out there in the industry nowadays, offers 100% evidence-based supplements you can trust to optimize your muscle building and fat burning results. Just head over to RealScienceAthletics.com using the link at the top of the screen or in the description box, and you can use coupon code YouTube15 to save 15% off your entire first order. And as always, guys, make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe below if you haven't already in order to stay up to date on future videos. Thanks again, and I will see you in the next video.